let us know if you're joining us so I can see that you're here. Just bear with me while I jump in and check that we're all here. And we're live. Just bear with me that I'm all here. Yeah, we are live. Let me know in the chat where you're joining us from. Hopefully you're from Oxford. That would be awesome. Tonight's session is hosted by Oxlep, the local enterprise partnership for Oxfordshire. And we're going to be looking at your unique selling point or your value proposition. Why is this important? Well, the COVID, the internet, everything has really kind of transformed how we do business. And so it's important, particularly as we now start to open up the economy again, that we understand our selling sweet spot. Almost think about it like that, our selling sweet spot. Why? Because if we understand what our selling sweet spot is, we can actually communicate it better, communicate it in a more intelligent way, and our customers start to understand this. So it's going to be a very practical session tonight, very, very hands-on. So be ready so that you can interact with this, get your notepads ready, because we're going to try and build a simple way, or a very simple way, to build a value proposition or a USP, so that when you are reaching out to people, when you are trying to do more business, you've got something to say that makes a difference, and you don't just blend into the crowd like everybody else. Hopefully this makes sense. And if you can see me and hear me, please let me know in the chat. That would be great, so I can feel like I'm not just staring down a camera, but there's other people on the other side, and I can see there's quite a few people joining the session now. So that's what we're going to cover. You will need a notepad and pen for this session because it's going to be a very interactive session. It's not going to be a you sit and watch. It's going to be I want you to actually do it. So get your notepads ready, get your pens, because we're going to do this together. And if you've got questions, you can put them in the chat. So I've got the chat screen here on YouTube. If you're watching anywhere else, the chat comes into here. So if you've got questions, put them in the chat, and we'll go through this together. So everybody with me, everybody alive, please answer. So just an introduction to me. I'm Dean Seddon. I'm the founder of Maverick. This session is hosted by Oxlep, and we're going to kickstart this session now. You will need notepad and pen. We're going to make a value proposition, a USP. We're going to discover your USP in this session. Now, yes, from tonight's session, you're going to have to go and work on it and do some research, but we're going to really map down and do some examples. And I'm just going to open a Word file because I'm going to have some of these on screen as we go. That will help us really kind of pull this together. So everybody here, Martin Ellis is here, Roddy's here, awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a value proposition quickly. This is the tricky bit. So I've got members of the team here to actually help me as well. And if you've got questions, ask them in the chat as we go. So you've got a product or service. So let's think about one key product that you have to sell over the next 6 months. Every product or service that you have will have different value proposition to a different market. So you might have to do this exercise multiple times for different groups. So let's go number one. Get your notepad out, and let's go to our first action. What are the 10 benefits of your service? 10 benefits. Why am I asking you for 10? Because 10 forces you to think really hard. Now, when I'm talking about benefits, I'm not talking about how clever your product is or how clever, hi Victoria from Monmouth. I'm not talking about how clever your product is. I'm not talking about how state of the art it is. I'm talking about if your customer buys it, what are the wins for them? What's the benefits for them? What are the outcomes, the results that they get? Because remember, people don't buy your product because it's state of the art. They buy it because it's state of the art, because it helps them do X, Y, or Z. So people buy results. They don't buy things for things' sake. You know, I've got a camera in front of me. It's a new camera that I've not used on this session before. I've got some lights here to make sure you can see my face. Why did I buy the camera? Because you get a clearer picture of me. You might not like that actually, but you get a clearer picture of me. So I'm buying a new camera to get a clearer picture. I'm not buying the camera because, ooh, quite fancy a new camera. Look at this one. It's got a new case and it's got this. So what are the 10 benefits or results you can help customers achieve? What are the 10? 10. Try and articulate these in the way your customers would do. Yeah, not how you'd say it, but what would the customer say? So it saves me time. I don't have to do this. It saves me this much time at the end of every month processing my accounts. What are the things that your benefits that you help your customers to do? The more realistic you can get them to the customer's perspective, the better. How can you find some of these? Some of them you'll instinctively know because you've got customers in those industries. Some of them you might have to research, so you could do a poll on LinkedIn or Facebook. And some of them you might have to just do some broader research, maybe survey. One of our students on our programs actually rang some of their existing customers up and said, what are the key things that you find good working with us? And they told you, and they told her. And so you can write those down. And the reason why it's 10 is because it's easy to think of 3, but actually trying to write 10 forces you to think a bit harder. It forces you to do it a little bit more. So what's the 10? That's the first thing. So everybody writing down their 10. You may not want to come back to this exercise. The video will be back later, but you need these 10 to help you think. So now we get to the tricky bit. What are the 10 weaknesses that your competitors have? Yeah, that you don't have. So what are the things that you know your competitors don't do as well as you? What are the things that your customers or customers potential customers you know are using your competitor? What are the niggles, the annoyances, their frustrations that they might have that you don't have? So start thinking about those. And that's a bit harder to think of, but you need to map those out, because there's no point going, I've got a new USP, and actually it's the same as your competitors, because then you don't have a USP. You don't have a value proposition that's any different. If you present that to one of their customers, say, we've already got that. So by looking at their weaknesses, you can find your strengths and you can emphasize the bits that you do better. And those customers that are frustrated with the niggles of your competitor's service, you can offer a superior service. So that's really what we're trying to do. And again, 10 forces you to think. It forces you to think hard. If it's a big company and you're a small company, have they got an outsourced call center? If it's a big company and you're a small company, do they feel like they don't get the level of service? If they're a small company and you're a big company, how can you, what can you add to that? Just very simple things, but this is where it starts. And I'm not expecting by the end of tonight's session, you've got the perfect USP, VP tonight, but it will put you in a trajectory that will help you sharpen up your sales message. It'll help you develop your website copy. It will help you really develop your messaging when you're talking to prospects. It will just sharpen the whole thing up. And if you really work this well and you start to understand all of these factors that develop your value proposition or your USP, you will end up in a situation whereby you can talk to customers in a completely different way, where they go, you really understand the challenges we have. And there's that relevance between you and them because you understand this is where they're coming from. And if you can understand where the customer's coming from, you have the advantage. You have the advantage of the customer feeling that you have a better grasp of their business, of their challenges, and that gives them confidence that you have a better solution. So notice how I said that then. If you can articulate their challenges and understand their challenges, and they feel that you understand them better, that will give them confidence that you can help them get to the benefits and the outcomes of your service. That's what we're trying to do. So the 10 weaknesses of your competitors, what are those? Now, just to bear in mind, one of your competitors might not be another company. It might be doing nothing. And we'll come to that a little bit later, but think about that. Your competitor might be doing nothing. You might be competing with people to stay as they are or change to something new. And we'll talk about that in a little minute. So now you've got your 10. Now we're going to go to the complicated one. So before we do the 10, I've missed a slide here, but what I want you to do is I want you to now think about your benefits that we got with the 10. So you've done your 10 benefits, you've done your 10 competitor weaknesses. I want you to now flip the benefits or invert the benefits and go, what is going on in my potential customers' businesses that they need these benefits? So let's say, for an example, you've got a company who's having to spend hours and hours working away to close their month end. And your service is an outsourced managed accounting service, outsourced bookkeeping, say. So you can help them complete the month end quickly and give them management reports, benefit. So now we look back and go, well, what's happening to them for them to need that? They're doing the month end themselves. It's taking a long time. Sometimes they're not getting management reports at all. And you start to list the 10 problems that mean your customers want the benefit. So you got the 10 benefits, the 10 competitor weaknesses. Now find the 10 problems that your customers have to need your benefits. Does everybody make sense with that? So the 10 benefits you wrote, flip them round and go, what are the 10 problems that my customers might have to need my benefits? So for an example, if I'm a marketing agency and my customers are not making sales, yeah, there's the pain. So what's the benefit? The benefit is the marketing agency will run brilliant campaigns that will help you get more customers. So if that's what they're doing, let's flip it back and they're a company that is struggling to acquire new customers. Yeah. And then we try with the 10 is try to detail them out in different scenarios and make them a bit more targeted, a bit more focused. So you will know what your 10 benefits are. And then you're looking for the absence of those in the 10 problems that you know they have or they need to have in order to need your service. High sound motive from Oxford. So just think about that. I'll just recap for everybody. So you got the 10 benefits of your service. You write those down as practical as you can for the customer. The 10 weaknesses of your competitors, and then you're going to flip the 10 benefits around and go, if the customer needs these benefits, if the customer needs these, what's going on now? What's the status quo situation? So what's the problems they're living with? What's the living with the limp, I call it. So they've got a situation going on right now, and that benefit is the ideal outcome that they want. The thing that you do is the ideal outcome, but you need to understand the problem they've got so that you can articulate it better. And then your job is to show them that you can help them get to the outcome, the benefit, and your service is that's what it's designed to do. Because people buy answers to problems. They don't really buy gadgets for the sake of it. You can't build a sustainable business model on selling novelty and gadgets and trinkets on novelty. Otherwise, you always have to have a new novelty. And you see some of the big tech brands, they now have built this in that they create new products like so quick with tiny tweaks because they have to keep the new thing, the new thing, the new thing. Even when the new thing is like 5% different from the old thing to keep the freshness. If you're going to compete on solving a major problem, you need to understand the businesses that if you've got a major benefit, you need to really understand the main problem that fixes. So now we go one step further. You're going to hate me by the end of this session, but this really does work. And I'll give you a worksheet. If you want a worksheet, come find me on LinkedIn and I'll share the worksheet that will make it a little bit easier for you. So now we're going to talk about the symptoms. So the symptoms. So we've got benefits and we've got problems. So the problems are the key issues that they've got within their business. The key issue, the big issue. But like all of us, sometimes what we do is we don't treat the real root cause. So I have people who come to me and say, Dean, I understand my pain points and the problems that I solve for customers, but it feels like the problems don't matter to my customers. It feels like I'm picking the wrong problem. You might not be picking the wrong problem, but sometimes human beings always try and find the quick fix. And so what they do is they try to treat the symptoms of the problem rather than actually the root cause. And why is this important to you? It's important to you that you understand the symptoms because that's what customers' knee-jerk reactions are to do. So for an example, let's say I am a business that really wants to ramp up my revenue, wants to acquire more customers, got big ambitions, but it feels like there's a roadblock. So that customer might get frustrated and their pain point is no matter how much effort we put in, we just can't grow. So that might be their pain point. We're putting lots of effort in, but not growing. So that's the big pain. They're not growing. But the pain might be that they're using the wrong strategy. So their strategy is wrong. So strategy to grow is wrong, but they want to grow. That's the outcome. So you know that they need to review their strategy. But they might not be in that space where they recognize that the underlying strategy that's trying to build this business is wrong. And so what they might be doing is throwing money at all different things, Facebook ads, Google ads, TV commercials, newspaper adverts, press releases, and they're just throwing money left, right, and center. And so the symptom of the problem of a poor strategy, hi, Sophie, the symptom of a pain or a problem being a poor strategy is that they're trying lots of different things. They're firing Facebook ads. Think of it like a cold. You know, you get a cold. Actually, interestingly enough, because of lockdowns and everything, the common cold has actually suffered for the last year. But if you think about the common cold, when you get a cold, what happens? You get a runny nose and I get watery eyes, which is really annoying because I look like an emotional wreck when I have a cold. So that isn't the real problem. The problem is you have a virus. You have a rhinovirus. Yeah. So when you've got the common cold, you've got a rhinovirus. Now your body will fight that off. And in one sense, we don't think about the cold as being the problem. What we get frustrated with is the achy body and the runny nose and the watery eye. So what do? When we've got achy body, we take some paracetamol. Does the paracetamol get rid of the virus? No. Our bodies have to do that process. Our antibodies have to do it. When we get a runny nose, what do? We blow it with tissue. Yeah, that's what we do. The runny nose is a symptom of the real problem, a virus. And so if a cold's really bad, you might go to the doctors, they might give you antibiotics, but they try and get the body to solve it itself. But if we have a runny nose, that is a symptom of another problem, a real problem. So some people, some customers of yours will knee-jerk to fix the runny nose and not the cold. And so where you get this disconnect is you talk about the big picture. Do you need to adjust your strategy? And they might go, no, we've just made a new strategy. We've just written one. We don't need another one. What they're focused on is why your campaigns aren't working. Have you done a Facebook ads campaign and it's got nowhere? Have you done email marketing and you've got no opens? Are you posting on LinkedIn and getting no traction? They're talking about the symptoms of the real problem. And then when you diagnose the customer, when you talk to the customer and understand them a bit better, and you go, actually, yeah, you've got a cold, they've got a cold, you can then explain to them that actually the reason your Facebook ads aren't working, the reason this isn't working is because you've got a cold. The strategy you're using, I understand why you're doing it, but it won't work for what you're trying to do. So if this is what you want to get, if this is the benefit you want to get, these are the things that we need to change. And then the Facebook ads will work, and then this will work, and then this will work. So think about the symptoms of the underlying problem. So if a customer's got a bad strategy, what's happening as a result of that? What's the runny nose of that? And write those 10 down. Just as an aside, when you do this exercise, and I know I'm giving you a lot of work to do here, but when you do this, if you've ever struggled to write content, if you've ever struggled to think about what to post and how to write your website copy or any of that, this will all flow from that. All of it will flow from this. If you understand this exercise that we're doing, your post copy, you can write a post each day on LinkedIn about one symptom. You can write a post about the benefits. Would you like to get this? You can write all examples that suddenly start to appeal, and you'll see your social media content, your website traffic. You'll see people staying on your website longer because you're talking in a language and about things that matter to your customers. I'm going to be really brutal here. Customers don't care about you. They don't. They care about what you can do for them that gets them to their result, gets them their answer, their breakthrough, their improvement, their cost saving, their opportunity, their revenue growth, their time saved, their time gained. Whatever it is, you are enabling the customer to get somewhere. That's what they value when they see and understand that your product or service adds that value, because that's where the value is in your product. It's not, or service. It's not the millions of pounds you've invested in it, if that's what you've done. It's how you've made something that helps that customer in a particular way. That's where the value of your product or service is in. It's the difference it makes to your customer is the value. So I sometimes use this as a rule of thumb. So I use the rule of thumb of going, if you're trying to sell £100,000 product or service, where's the £1 million problem? Where's the £1 million problem? If you're trying to sell a £500 service, where's the £5,000 problem? And that's what you should be thinking, because a customer will always evaluate your product or service against the size of the issue they've got. If it's not a big enough problem, they will live with a limp. They will live with a limp. If they're not sure that it will achieve an outcome, they will live with a limp. Or if they, for an example, if their value, the scales of value aren't balanced right. In other words, let's say you've got a £2,500 service and the size of the problem to the customer is £5,000. They're going to think it's expensive. Now, how do you quantify the value of the problem? You have to really do some research. You have to go, well, hang on a minute. How much time is it costing them to do this way? What are they missing? What's the time issue that they've got? And generally, you're looking for a time or money calculation. And not a ridiculous one. It has to be something that a business can believe. If it's like, actually, this is probably costing you hundreds of hours a year, and they don't see that that's 100 hours of a year, you've got to understand and appreciate how that works out and probably demonstrate that in conversation with the customers. So we've got our 10 symptoms. So now we're going to go on to something else. I'm going to give you lots of 10 lists, but this will really help you. Now I'm going to ask you to list 10 consequences. 10 consequences. So if I've got a virus, that's the real pain. I've got a runny nose, so that's really annoying me. I need to get rid of this runny nose. So what do? I get tissues. So I blow my nose and I have to keep doing it several times a day. You know, I'm going through tissues like there's no tomorrow. Symptom, dealing with a symptom. After a few days of a runny nose, I know this is a gruesome example, by the way, but it's a really simple way to explain it. After a few days of blowing my nose, what's happened to my nose? The skin around my nostrils has dried up. It's red, raw, and sore, and my nose is starting to hurt. Yeah. The symptom of I'm tired, so I'm not symptom of tired and lethargic and achy means I don't feel like working. I'm not very productive. My eyes watering means maybe I'm not going on many Zoom calls with clients. I'm doing emails only because I'm having to reschedule calls. So there's symptoms, the direct thing, the eye watering, but then I'm rescheduling calls. That's a consequence. The sore nose from blowing my nose too much is a consequence. You will have, if customers keep doing things the way they're doing, living with the limp, there will be consequences. What are those consequences? And a word to the wise, don't pick like cataclysmic consequences, like your business will go out or close down. It will be more realistic scenarios of consequences. You know, if you keep blowing your nose like that, you're going to have, you know, if you keep spending all this money on marketing that's not working, you're just throwing money down the drain. The consequence of trying all different things, but are not fixing the underlying strategy, you're wasting money. You're doing all this effort for no reward. And these are the key things. So when you think about it, we go benefits, weaknesses of the competitors, symptoms, consequences. So then you've got them and you start to refine them. And this is what you're going to do with them. Everybody's still with me, because I'm going to say, you know, this will take some time, so you can come back to the replay to work this out. This will take some time for you to go through and develop, and you know, to write 10 of them down will actually be quite hard, because the rule is you have to write it like the customer's writing it. So you can't write it in your techno babble, your industry lingo. You have to write it as if it's the customer thinking it. Oh, I'm sick of this. I'm sick of these ads not working. There's something wrong. There's something amiss here. Why does it feel like whatever marketing we do, nothing works? You need to write it down like the customer would say it, not their synchronization and synergy, techno gobbledygook, blah, 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 isn't performing at optimal levels. Yeah, it needs to be how the customer would say it to themselves, thinking it. When, you know, when we almost talk to ourselves in our own head, right? How are they thinking about it in their own head? It's normally the most basic and simple and straightforward of language. Say straightforward words, and that's what you're trying to do with this exercise. And so it will take you, and we've actually got a PDF of this. So if you've got if you need the PDF to work through, we've got an interactive PDF you can use to put all this together. But you may have to go over this 2 and 3 and 4 times to really concise it down. So that's the first thing you should do. Work it over and over and over again. Then you can start to test these messages. So what you can do is test these messages. Don't try and sell in a testing phase. Just test the messages. So how do you do that? So number one, you can post about a specific symptom or consequence or pain or benefit. Maybe ask questions about it. Don't try and sell. When you're trying to market research, you're trying to test the market, you're trying to see how well they respond to the messages and the words that you're using. So you can do a few posts on LinkedIn, a few posts on Facebook on your company page, and ask people questions about the pains, consequences, benefits, symptoms. But don't try and make it promotional, because the promotional bit might put people off from being authentic in the way they respond. So you could do a poll on LinkedIn and ask people the questions and see what happens. And the great thing about LinkedIn is you've got stats. And so you can see, if you ask this question at the top of the post and write some things about it, what happens? If you write this question about this symptom at the top of the post, what happens? And you're doing this to just test your messages, so you can see how people resonate. You can write blogs about this and see how people resonate. And you're not looking for whether this one gets 10,000 and this one gets 5. You're looking at which one has the edge, which key message has the edge. And you test it over a few weeks, different ones, and you start to boil this down. Even when you send a newsletter to your customers, perhaps you've got a newsletter to your customers, you could actually test the subject lines with some of these key messages and see which ones get the most opens. Very, very simple ways to do it. And you're just testing the resonance of your messages. And then once you've got that, you can start to combine these two things. So we can help customers in this sector get this goal and leave this problem, this symptom behind. And you can combine these key messages together. So why did I ask you earlier what the weaknesses of your competitor are? Because if you can articulate some of those without naming and shaming, it's never good to say they're rubbish at this and they're rubbish at that. When you can combine those with it, you can start to go, well, let's play into the spaces where we're strong and the competitor is weak. Now, this exercise is not going to make it perfect overnight, but it will help you refine it. The amount of people and businesses I've seen get tongue-tied and stuck and hung up on this forever, for years, in fact, some of them, when you just field test. I'm a big believer, I have a saying, build the plane whilst flying it. You don't know, even if you do the most detailed research, you don't know what resonates until you put it out there. And so you can put it out there and field test it and see the feedback. In the technology world, they call this beta testing or beta testing, depending on where you're from in the world. But beta test it. You've got a value proposition. Let's beta test it. Let's put it out there, see how people respond, and then improve. It's anybody who's in project management, it's a little bit like agile methodology where you iterate as you go. So you iterate based on this, but you've got some fundamental key messages, some key pillars of understanding about your customers that you can then move and adapt and iterate and edit down and condense and make more concise to build a solid message. The good thing about this as well is as the market adapts, you'll start to see the messages tone and refine in different ways. And one really interesting point about this is when you do this, particularly on LinkedIn, and some of our accelerator students have done this, they have done this in a more in-depth way, and they found that people are making inbound inquiries as they test the messages. So you got to really see how people respond to the messages. And that's really, really important. But it's important to know what the vulnerabilities of your competitor is, so you don't just go, actually, we've built a value proposition and it looks awfully the same as your competitor. That's like the most worst outcome you can get. So look at how do we mix the weaknesses of our competitors, our benefits, the symptoms the customers will have, the consequences they may be concerned about, and then the real deep-seated pain, which might be something they're not addressing. They're trying to treat the symptoms. They're trying to what's the word? Put a bandage on, they put a plaster over the problem. So if you're finding customers aren't resonating with the main problem, they're probably trying to plaster over, what do they call it? Paper over the cracks. So they know there's a crack, but they'll wallpaper over it. So they'll go, let's spend more money on Facebook advertising, or let's move to a different Facebook advertising agency, or let's revamp the website. And so they're trying to paper over the core problem. So if you go to market with the core problem, not in every say, some people will not resonate with it. But if you start to talk about the symptoms of the problem, you'll get people's attention, because everybody understands the symptoms. If you've got a weak strategy, you will have problems with sales. If you have a weak business model, you'll have problem with sales. So you could start to go, well, actually, the problem, the weak business strategy is the pain, the real pain. But actually, the customer's just going, we need to get sales. We need to get sales. Try this, try this, try this, try this, try this. And they're just trying lots of things. So I've seen this a lot. So you're pulling all of this together. You're going to test it in your messages. And in fact, if you like, if you find me on LinkedIn, maybe I'll pull my LinkedIn up to show you. If you find me on LinkedIn, I'll just pull my LinkedIn up so you can find me. And you want to send me your document, I'm more than happy to have a look at it. Just drop me a connection request. I'll just put my LinkedIn profile up so you can see me. So there's me. So if you want to do this exercise and then go, I'd love to have some feedback on it. I'll happily give you feedback on what I think. Maybe not instantly, but in a few days following you sending it to me, I'm more than happy to go through this exercise with you and then test your pain points in posts. And I do this a lot. So I never get complacent, and I always test my messages. And I'll show you an example. You can do this anywhere. You don't. So here's a little article that you can read up that I put up earlier about this very topic we're talking about tonight. Do you know your value proposition? And, do you want to know one of LinkedIn's biggest myths? Again, I'm talking to people's pain points. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm talking about the problems and outcomes that people want to get to. And that's what I'm trying to do. So if you want to come connect with me, I'll happily review your document for you, give you some pointers and some feedback. But the key thing is to then get out there and test this in the market. Test this in the market. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you some time now to go, well, actually, this is mine. So has anybody got any questions or any scenarios you'd like me to run through? And we'll do them in this scenario. And maybe I've got Word here so I can write some notes up and put them on the screen. Does anybody want to be a guinea pig, or does anybody want to ask questions about how this applies to their business? And don't be shy, please. Sophie isn't shy, and Sound Motive isn't shy. And who else isn't shy? Victoria. So if you want to ask people questions about scenarios, and I'll try and come up with some of the pains that you might have. So maybe you want to put a benefit of your product or service, mention the product and the benefit, and I'll do a scenario for you on real time if you like, if you're feeling brave. But what if you're not feeling brave? We'll see how many. There's a little delay on the session, so I'll leave it open. So if you've got questions and want to put them in, go for it. We'll do them. This will really help you write social media blogs, content. It will help you write a sales pitch. It will help you write PowerPoint presentations. It will help you. It will help you make that presentation more compelling, because suddenly you know what interests your customers, what your customers will pay attention to. And so you can cut through the noise in a very, very crowded space. You can cut through the noise because you're talking straight to the customer, straight to you, and it's hyper relevant. And you're all being very shy. So I don't know whether you want to share anything. If you don't, we've done this session really quick. So just to recap, oh, here we go. Paola. Oh, Paola. Hello. I've not seen you in a little while. So you're a holistic therapist. So people tune into their life they truly want to live and their purpose. So here's a real important thing, Paola. As you do this, you go, well, okay, that's brilliant. So they want, what does that mean in reality? So they've got better relationships with their friends, partners, families. Their finances, they feel like they're in control of their finances. They feel like their career's on track. They feel like Life has some meaning. There's not that monotony. So you see, these are the benefits. We're just listing them out and being more specific. They're not living a life aligned to their heart's desire. They feel like they're just going through the motions. Yeah, just going through the motions. That's how I'd say it. I'm a northerner. They're going through the motions. They're just treading water. They're just doing things over and over again. It feels like no progress is being made. They're just eat, sleep. What's it? Eat, sleep, work, repeat. Eat, sleep, work, repeat. So you start to list those out as the benefits. They feel like their life's going somewhere. They've got something to live for bigger than themselves. They feel like they're making a contribution to this society. They feel like their families, the relationships are great. All of that. So they feel fulfilled. Now let's flip that the other way around. What do they feel like right now? They feel like they're in a job that's not going anywhere. They don't feel fulfilled from their job. Maybe there's tension in their relationships. Maybe there's broken relationships. Maybe they're worried about where their future's going to be. Maybe their balance of finances. Life has no meaning, no purpose. But what does that drill down to? It feels like, life's just a repeat. I've got all of this, got whatever the average age is, 80 years, and I feel like I'm just wasting it. You feel like you're just wasting your life. Maybe you just you're bored. You just feel bored, and that's affecting your relationships. So again, list them all out. Then think about the symptoms. Because you're not fulfilled, are you arguing? Are you grumpy? Are you agitated? Are you symptoms? Are you finding it hard to get up for work in the morning? Are you wanting to stay in bed more? Are you not putting any effort into the work job? Is that means you've had more? They don't love their job. Yeah. Are they finding that their performance in work's going down? Have they had warnings about their performance in work? So benefits, list them out in specifics, better relationships, better. Then flip them, invert them, and what's going on in the scenarios. What's the symptoms? What's the consequences? And then what's the weaknesses of the competitors? Have they been on free courses? Have they been on Udemy? Have they had a coach? Have they done this and it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere? Yeah. Suddenly what you're doing is you're actually building messaging, but you're also building a value proposition, a USP at the same time. And you mix what they might have already tried, i.e. the competitors, and what's the disappointments they might have felt like that. Now, some of you will have to do more research than others because some of these problems will be there for all to see, and some of them will be a bit more hidden. But you can see quite quickly how it can spill out into lots of different blog ideas, post ideas, video ideas, website copy, white papers, webinars. You can just build this out into lots of different things, all one go. Paola, they're confused. They feel lost. Yeah, they feel lost, feel disconnected from their friends. They might feel sad about that. They might feel sad. They might feel like they don't have any meaningful relationships. There's loads of things that can happen when you're just going through the motions and you don't feel like you've found your place in life. You haven't found that spot. No, Paola, I'm not saying name and shame, but, or blame, or, that company's rubbish. What I'm saying is they've probably tried things to fix this before. What have they tried? Have they tried counseling? Have they tried affirmations? Have they tried coaching and it's just not stuck? Have they bought books and it doesn't seem to change anything? Yeah. Meditation. You'd never, ever, ever throw mud at specific competitors ever. It's not very good. Oh, Sophie, if you want to put some more in, that's absolutely fine. I'm free to hang out for a little bit longer if people want to add some more scenarios. But you can see how this comes together really quickly. But you have to bring it down to the customer's level. Don't talk in your industry lingo, talk in their world. Some really good books on this as well. If you ever want to get some books that will help you with this, They're very old books, but you've got a book called Sales Letter. In fact, I'll get them for you. These two books are brilliant for helping you think like a customer. So you've got Sales Letters That Sizzle. I look quite funny here, sandwiched between two books. And Ogilvy on Advertising. David Ogilvy is a genius at writing copy. But what you're trying to do is bring it down to the customer's world so that you can go, this is what's going on. Now I can use this. And your value proposition, your USP, is inextricably linked to all of your sales and marketing. Totally linked. There's no gap between them. And if you think you're doing something and it doesn't link back to your USP and your VP, value proposition, there's something wrong. And your value proposition, you know, COVID, all of that stuff has changed lots of people's value proposition. It's changed lots of people's business model. So I would encourage you to go through this exercise on a regular basis. What I do, and I don't think you can see it here on the camera, you might be able to just make it out, is I scribble them down on my wall behind me. And I never have them out of sight. I always want them in sight because it's so easy to just drift off and copy what the competitors are doing, see what somebody else is doing and think it works, so I'll just copy that. And you find yourself out of sorts. You find yourself going, where are we again? I'm not sure. And if you just end up following the crowd, you're never going to take the advantage. If you follow the crowd, you're never going to take the advantage. You're never going to have a competitive advantage because you'll be following what other people are doing. So I would encourage you to go through this exercise on a regular basis. Really go through it. As I said, I'm more than happy. You know, I've asked you to do a lot in a short space of time. So if you want to, come find me. There's an article on this on my LinkedIn profile, but come find me if you like. And do the work, do the spread. If you want the document, I'll share the document with you. It's just a worksheet you can use to help you get this going. And I'll review it for you. There's no charge for this. This whole session tonight is funded by Oxlep. What I would like you to do, this is my request. Please. So Oxlep, if you're a business based in Oxfordshire and you've got, you need some support in your business, Oxlep have grant funding, one-to-one support, all of these things that is totally funded by the UK and EU government. So if you need help, they will come and help you. They'll give you information, they'll give you support. So what I would love you to do, if you've enjoyed this session, is go follow their company page. And if you've enjoyed it, do let them know that you've got value from it, because obviously they're using this resource to help you. And if there's things that need to be improved, we absolutely want to do it. And if there's things that you need help with, go see them, and I'm sure they'll look at seeing if they can put some more stuff on. So do go check out Oxlep. I'd really appreciate that. But go do the exercise. There's no point you spending time with me tonight on this session if you don't do the exercise. And once you do the exercise, it will give you really good clarity about who you can help and give you that sharp edge to be able to go out there and communicate what you do and the difference you can make in a very concise and compelling way. It will improve your sales pitch. It will improve your marketing. It will improve your website. It will improve your social media. You just have to go out there, do the work, test it, and implement it. And I'm more than happy if you want to send me something, a PDF or a Word file, and say, can you have a look at it, to help you with that? Because it can be a very daunting task. Remember, stay in the customer's world, the customer's language. Don't use your industry lingo and jargon. Boil it down to real straightforward scenarios that the customer will probably have faced or be facing, symptoms that the customer sees and probably experiences. So easy to just drift into industry jargon, and then you lose it because the customer go, what are you talking about? I had one the other day, and I read some messages, and I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. It makes no sense to me, because they talked in their tech industry centric jargon, when what they were selling was a real simple way to charge customers for the service, like a charging software like Stripe. And they just went into so much jargon. It was just like, what the hell are you doing? I have no idea. But it seems right to you at the time. But then when the customer gets it, it's like, what are you talking about? And the art of communication is not getting it out of your mouth. It's getting it into people's ears and understood. That's what you're responsible for, is getting the customer to understand you, not just telling them what you want to say. Sophie, yeah, thank you. Really appreciate that. Come find me. I'm going to wrap up if there's no more questions. Please do go give some feedback to Oxlab. Tell them how wonderful I was, please. But yeah, do go use this, because it's really important. And if you want some support, just come find me on LinkedIn. It's no charge. There's no cost or anything like that. I'm not going to sell you anything. It's just that I thought you might need some feedback. And if you want some feedback, I'm there. Okay, if there's no more questions, I wish you a very happy Easter long bank holiday. We are back next Wednesday with another session. Check out Oxlab's website with the events section. You can register there for free. We've got a new training session next week. Hope to see you then. But please, please, please go do the exercise. It will help you in your business. And thank you.